Hi guys, welcome and welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are well and I hope you guys are staying safe. If you're new here, welcome. In today's video, we're going to be talking about all things bias tips. However, I just want to ask you to please hit the subscribe button as well as the notification bell so you don't miss out on the awesome content that I have for you. To all my OGs, welcome back. You guys know how much I care about you. Thank you so much for being a part of this family. You guys are absolutely amazing. And to all the subscribers and the members, because I have a member only Kana, you guys are absolutely amazing. I'll keep dropping member exclusive videos, so yes, go ahead and check out the details in this video for how to become a member. Let's go straight into the video. Like I said, I'm going to be talking about all things bias tapes today, how to make your own, how to cut, how to join, and how to finish it off, finish off your outfit with your bias tape. So to make a bias tape, you want to start with a rectangular piece of fabric and you want to go ahead and cut out on the diagonal line with a rotary cutter or scissors if you want. Right now, after you do that, you want to determine how wide you want your tape to be, especially when you're using a bias tape maker, and then you want to go ahead and cut out the strips in that length. So basically, for demonstration purposes, I'm only going to go around really quickly and do this. However, I do have a proper video showing you guys how to cut and make your own bias tape. At this point, I've gone ahead to cut out 4 strips, and what I want to show you first is how to join all those 4 strips so that we have one long strip, right? So you want to go ahead and take the bias tape. Make sure that end is pointing down, which is what I've shown you now. And then you want to take the second one, and then you want to make sure the end of the second one is pointing upwards. You want to place them at a 90 degrees angle. So basically one of them is horizontal and one of them is vertical. And at the point where they meet, you want to go ahead and pin it together. Now, when I say it doesn't sound like it works, but you can watch it. Now, in this case, it's pointing upwards. You want to go ahead and see how you want to do it and place it at a 90-degree angle. Again, one of them is a horizontal and one of them is pointing upward vertically, and then you want to go ahead and pin. And of course, you can go ahead and check what you're pinning and just play around with it and you'll get used to it. So I'm going to do the last joining as well, and I'm going to show you guys so you guys can see what the last joining looks like. So for emphasis sake, the last joining, I have it pointing down. I take the other strip and I have that one pointing upwards. I place it at an angle 90 degrees and I go ahead and pin them in place after checking that it makes sense, right? So go ahead and pin it in place. And at this point, we have all our pieces pinned in place. With your sewing machine, you're going to go ahead and sew it in place at 1/2 inch or less if you prefer. And then if you use 1/2 inch, you want to go ahead and trim off all the excess. So I went ahead to sew it in place with 1/2 inch sewing allowance, as you can see. So what I decided to do was cut off all the excess and trim off all the thread hanging loose. So I went ahead to do all of that, and after doing that, we have the bias strip together. However, for the purpose of this tutorial, I didn't need the entire strip, so I went ahead to reduce it. I only did 2. Now the first thing we want to do is make our bias tape with a bias tape maker. So you want to go ahead and pass your bias into the bias tape maker, and then you want to make sure to iron it. Due to the steam of the iron, my camera became clouded. So I went ahead to clean it at this point. Now, this is what the bias tape that I made looked like, the one from Ankara. And then that's the store-bought one that you can see. Starting off with the store-bought one, I'm going to show you one method of finishing your outfits with your bias tape. So I've gone ahead to make like a little bit of a bodice, just a short one that you guys can see for demonstration purposes only. To fix the bias tape the regular way, you want to go ahead and fold the bias tape, place it on the right side of it, and you're going to be sewing along the line that you see on the bias tape, right? There's a line there, and you're going to use that line as a guideline. And you're going to go ahead and sew all around. Now, one thing you'll notice is I placed the bias tape so that it starts exactly where the neckline starts, right? And then you want to sew it all around. Now, after doing that, we're going to go ahead and sort it out. Now, on the wrong side, we're going to fold it over, which is what I'm showing you guys now. Fold it over, and then we're going to sew it in place neatly. Now, when you're sewing it in place, you want to sew as close to the edge as possible. And this is because whatever you sew is going to be on the right side of the fabric, so you need it to be properly sewn. You also want to make sure that your sewing machine is sewing properly at this point, because again, whatever it is that you sew is going to appear on the right side of the fabric. So that's the wrong side and this is the right side. So I'm going to go ahead and repeat this again on the back piece. So I've got one of the back pieces. I'm going ahead to sew it in place, and I'm going to sew it on the other side as well. And the reason why I'm sewing it on the back piece is so that I can show you guys how to join the shoulders. And for that, I've also got 2 interesting methods on how to join the shoulders when you're doing bias as well. So to join the shoulders, I'm going to show you two methods like I said earlier. The first one is my favorite one. So go ahead and place the outfit as it should be, the back pieces on the front pieces. Now you want to go ahead and make sure that you haven't closed the bias tape yet on the back piece. Only the one on the front piece is closed, as you can see. Now you want to go ahead and open the back piece. You have the right side, right? You want to make sure you have the right side. And then you want to go ahead and place the front piece on it so the right sides are facing each other. And then you want to go ahead and pin it in place. So you're pinning it close to the neckline, and then you fold over the bias on it first, right? Now when you sew it over, you go ahead and sew that your shoulders in place first before you close the bias for the back. So remember that we close the bias for the front but not for the back, and then we sew in the shoulders. Now what happens is when you're done sewing, this is what it looks like. You check that it's fine, and then you trim off the excess. What you should have is you should have like a bit of a continuance, right? It looks like it's continuing from the front all the way to the back, and the neckline, or the part where it touches your neck, is really straight, and that's how it should look. The reason why I like this method is because it encloses the seam that you have from the front part. Now, after that seam is enclosed, you want to go ahead and finish off the bias tape as you normally would. And then at the end, you can fold it in and then kind of just finish it off like this, right? And that's basically it for this part method. And like I said, I really like this method because what happens is that you have it enclosed. Of course, when I'm doing this professionally, I would make sure to overlock the armhole before I do this, because obviously you've then taped it down and you can't really do much. So I will make sure to do that. However, the other method is the regular method. So you go ahead and finish the second back piece, and you finish it normally like you would. And when you're done finishing the back piece like you did with the front piece, you want to go ahead and join the shoulders normally, right? So you trim off any excess bias tape that you have, place it so that the right sides are facing each other, and you go ahead and join it on 1/2 inch sewing allowance. So this is the regular way. There's nothing wrong with it. If you do it this way, I would always advise again that you overlock each piece separately and then spread it open, which is what I'm doing now, and then tack it in place so that it doesn't move and it's nice and tidy. That's one way. Or you can even overlock them together and then just leave it as low as possible, right? So that's one way. So at this point, we're literally done with finishing with sewing a bias with the regular store-bought bias. So this is a store-bought bias. Now moving on to the second method, I tend to do this when I'm using a bias that I've made myself. It doesn't really matter. You could probably do it with a store-bought bias, but I think that if you're using a bias that you made, usually the bias will be from your main fabric and it kind of all ties in together, looks really good. So I tend to do this with like bias that I have made. So you want to start this time on the wrong side. That's where there's a difference, right? It's a bit similar, but you start on the wrong side. So remember that when we're doing the first method, we start on the right side of the fabric, but this time you start sewing on the wrong side. So again, you start like you're doing your regular bias. You place it close to the neckline, and then you sew on your line that you've made as a guideline. So I technically don't always, pass my bias through the bias tape maker because I kind of know what to do. But when you're just starting, I always advise that you use a bias tape maker because it gives you those lines that you iron, and those lines serve as a guideline. Now, after sewing it on the wrong side like this, you're going to flip it over to the right side. And this is where the fun begins. So what you want to do is you want to gently fold this over in half. Essentially, so we're not folding it over like we did a bias. So fold it over like this. This is the right way, right? And as you can see at the back, that's what it looks like. Not like this, not like it's a bias, not this way. So you want to fold it over in half, and then you fold it over like you are piping it over, right? So essentially just like a taping around the edge. I don't know how to explain it verbally, but this is what it looks like when you fold it over. And what happens is that you are enclosing the neckline in the bias tape like a sandwich. And this way, in my opinion, is a lot more, is a lot neater than, the other way. And this works for like if you're using things like spandex, bodycon fabric, or anything that's like really stretchy. I really like it. Alright guys, so this is the finished look of both necklines. This is the first one that we did with the regular store-bought bias, and that's what it looks like on the wrong side. And as well on the right side, you can see that's the shoulders, that's what way it's enclosed, and that's the shoulders where we've kind of separated them as well. And also we also have the one where we piped. This is what it looks like. I really like this finishing. It's my favorite one to do. I do it on chiffon blouses. I think that is really nice as well. Alright guys, so we've come to the very end of this tutorial. It was a really quick sewing hack and kind of sewing tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope it was worth your while. If you enjoyed this video, let me know in the comment section below. Let me know any suggestions or feedback that you have. And if you haven't subscribed, please do well to hit the subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching guys, and I'll see you next week. Bye.